Hi everyone, what I'm going to walk you through today is the quote stages in Simpro and why you should use this really underutilized feature. So we all are very familiar with the job stages that we have in Simpro with the pending, progress, complete, and a lot of Simpro users use this on a really heavy day-to-day basis to work out what jobs are where and what needs to be done. But something that often gets overlooked is the quote stages in Simpro. So if you're quoting in Simpro, have a look at this and see if there's anything that you can pick up that will help you get a little bit more use out of the system. So I'm in quotes in Simpro right now, and what I've got here in the grey tab is the different subcategories, I guess, or stages as Simpro calls them, where quotes can live. So all quotes is every quote you've ever done. You can scroll through there and actually see all of the different stages with all of the different quotes that you have in the system, no matter what stage that they live in. And open quotes will show you all of the quotes that are currently open. So every quote that you've got in Simpro except those that have been marked as lost and manually archived, or any quote that you have turned into a job, and that job conversion will automatically push the quote over to the archived section. However, the next three on the list are actually subcategories, and these are designed as an internal approval process for you to go through with your quotes. So, progress, complete, and approved are actually all open quotes in Simpro. Progress is designed to be a place where you put your quotes when you first go to do them. So this would be quotes that you haven't had a chance to look at yet, quotes that you haven't finished pricing up. So you might be waiting for a supplier quote, you might be waiting for some more information from a technician. Whatever the reason, progress indicates that you haven't yet completed it. And the next two will be used depending on how your business is set up and what your individual needs are. But Complete was designed to be a place where you actually popped quotes once you had finished pricing them up. And this allows someone else in the business to review them. So anyone that jumped into the Complete quotes in Simpro would know that they have actually been priced up and they're just waiting for that secondary check before they actually get marked as approved. So approved quotes ones that have been internally approved for you to send out to your customers. So, not quotes that have been approved by customers, because obviously they would get converted over to a job and then archived. So, internally approved. And this becomes really important when we start looking at some back-end settings and functionality around quote notifications and a couple of other little bits and pieces like that. So, progress, I'm still pricing it up. Complete means I've finished, but it can sit here for someone else to have a look at. And you can actually restrict people from putting quotes directly into the approved bucket based on a dollar value or based on their security group setting as a whole. So you might say someone new to the business can only actually approve quotes that are under, say, $5,000. And if that particular person had a quote that was valued over that amount, they would not physically be able to move it to the approved and therefore would not see the forms tab where they need to email it out to the customer. So progress, still pricing it up. Complete means I finished, but someone else needs to look at it. And approved means, yep, we've looked at this and we're happy to send it out to the customer. So this is actually where most of your quotes should be sitting that you're waiting on a response for. So why is this important and how does Simpro work this out? So let's have a look at a couple of different things first. Let's jump into the system setup. And if we come into the defaults tab, halfway down the page, on the right-hand side, we've got our quote section here. So here it will show you the quote stage where the quotes are put into when very first created in Simpro. So most people would actually have this or should actually have this set to in progress because this is where the quotes would wait to be priced up. And if you're just, a one-man band who's using Simpro, you're the only person who quotes and you do all of your quotes straight away, then potentially you could have them go straight over into the approved section. I'm going to touch a little bit on that later. Again, here, this checkbox here gives you the ability to restrict unapproved quotes. So that's what I was talking about before with the security group settings. Do we want to actually prevent people from sending quotes out that are not in the approved bucket? So you can tick that if it's relevant for your business. The other thing that I want to touch on here is the quote validity. So Simpro did make some recent changes to this and have actually improved the functionality of this. So here you can basically put in how long your quote is valid for. It might be 30, 60, 90 days, whatever's relevant to your business. And then this is why the stages become important because we're looking at the quote expiry based on the date that it was created, or the date that it was approved. And so for a lot of businesses, this is set to the default of created date because that's the only functionality that we used to have in Simpro before they upgraded this. But I would say most businesses actually would like to start using the approved bucket and changing that over to the approved date. Why is this important? So, this is important if you have a bit of a backlog on your quotes and you might not be actually sending them out to the customer, or you might having to be waiting on suppliers to get back to you on, part specifics, or pricing, or whatever it may be. But we actually want the quote validity to start from when we're sending it out and we've actually finished that quote, rather than wasting 7 to 10 days from the date of creation being eaten up before your customer even gets that quote. So I definitely recommend using the quote stages and having the quote validity based on the approved date. So how do we change quotes when they're actually in different stages? So what I'm going to do is just jump into a bit of a test quote that I've got open here, and I'll just show you how you would do that. So in the settings tab, you can see here that the stage of the quote is listed with a drop down box. So the quote might start off being put in progress from your backend settings. And then when I finish pricing it up, I would just come in here and move over to complete. And when someone's finished looking at it, they might come in and move it over to approved. Okay, you can see when I flicked it over to approved, that's actually pre-populated this date approved. And now, because of my backend settings, the quote validity on my quote forms, and also used for things like notifications in the background, is going to be based off that date that we've actually approved the quote, rather than the quote was created a week ago and has been sitting there not visible to the customer. Okay, so what I really want to get down to, and the whole point of the introduction section of this video, is around the notifications. So one question that I get asked all of the time is, how can I send a SMS or a email to my customers to remind them that they've got a quote? And often businesses would like that email to be sent, say 7 days after the initial quote has actually been sent out to the customer. So I'm in system setup at the moment, and I've just jumped into the notifications section here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through creating that notification, and this will really stress why having the approval settings and the quotes in the right stages is really, really important to get this functionality working properly. So I'm just going to call this quote follow up so I know what it is. And while I'm building notifications, I always just turn them to off until I'm really happy with how they look. And then I can also go back and make some changes, create a couple of different ones. And then as soon as I turn them to be on, that's when they're live and active in the system. Okay, so I want this quote follow-up to actually be based on the quotes that I have in my system. So I'm going to pick quotes for condition type. And then I'm going to just pick service for the sake of this one, but you can come in and obviously create the same notification for project quotes as well, or you might have a different wording or different filters that you might set up depending on whether it's a service or project type of quote in Simpro. So this is where what I've said in this earlier section of the video becomes really important, because we can't send a notification out of Simpro, say 7 days after I've sent it to the customer. Simpro doesn't do that. It can do it based on a status change of, right now I'm emailing it to the customer, so I'll send a notification now, but it doesn't do days after status change. So the way that I'm going to get around that is actually use this trigger to be set up in my days before expiry. So you'll remember that I set my validity, or my quote validity, to 30 days. And I also have now changed it in the backend setting to be 30 days from when I approve the quote, not from when the quote is created. So what I can do here is I can say, let's say a week later, so 30 takes 7, it's 21 days. I want to send out this email 21 days before my quote expires. Now, if you have your backend setting to base the validity off the created date, the risk you run with a notification like this is obviously sending out an email for a quote that you have not even finished yet and sent to the customer. So that's why that approval process, and moving it into the approved stage and having my validity based off the approval is really, really important. Okay, there's a whole heap of filters that we can now add to notifications based on customer groups, cost centers. So I can really tailor this to, say, send SMSs to my residential clients, send emails to my, business clients. Don't send emails at all to real estate. There's a whole heap of filtering that you can do for these notifications to really tailor it to who you're trying to speak to. So have a look at that. It's a really good feature that Simpro have implemented. And then just going through the rest of my notification quote creation, I pick who I want to receive my notification, which in this case would actually be the customer. I would pick a time that's suitable to actually send it to them. And here I have the ability to say email, SMS, or look at which one the customer prefers on their customer card. So for this example, I'm just going to set it up as an email. Yes, I can pop in all of my um, information here with a subject line, and I also have the ability to write out my email. And over here on the right hand side, I've got a whole heap of fields that I can actually come in here. So as someone who gets a lot of emails throughout the day, I do like to go through and really put in some information that tailors this email so that the customer knows that they're receiving something they should look at. Okay, so put the site address in there to capture their attention. Put other things that are going to make it look less spammy, if that makes sense. Okay. So here I'm going to say, right, I want this to come from this particular email address in my business. I want the quote reminder for, and I'm going to put the site full address actually in the subject line. And then I might say, hi, and I actually have the ability to search through these and go customer name. We recently sent you a quote for, and again, I'm going to put the address in, just making it as tailored as I can. Please contact us at the office to discuss commencement of these works. And again, you can put in some information around who they should call. So I can do things like my company name, my company phone. I can put in today's date, order numbers, etc., etc. So lots of information in here. And then when I finish with this, I'll just hit create, and that's created that one. So just remember to go back in and turn it on when you're happy with it, just by clicking that enabled button. But really, really important to have those quotes set up with the correct validity, the correct approval dates, and little bits and pieces like that to make these notifications really valid and direct to the customer. If you've got any questions, please reach out. But this is one thing that I have a lot of customers asking me about. So I thought I would pop a quick video up and leave a note in the comments if you've implemented this and how it went.